What is Project Latitude? Well, the latest round of Xbox news is that internally, Microsoft is pushing for more big Xbox titles to make the move to PlayStation, and Project Latitude is what they are calling it, which has led many to say that no game is safe. Will big games like Halo, Gears of War, and Starfield end up on PlayStation? Well, the Xbox insider that started all of this seems to think that obvious games will make the jump. And in my recent video, I break down a lot of the aspects of that. So make sure and check out my recent upload on this topic. We do this follow-up live stream to discuss the topic. So if you want to see everything, I looked into the history of consoles and how exclusive games are integral to the history of gaming systems. I looked at the details of Project Latitude, what it is, and then I asked the question, where are we headed? Like, will Xbox be a platform in the future if they're sort of abandoning the idea of exclusives? Even the recent Sarah Bond Bloomberg interview makes it really hard to see a traditional console ever coming from Microsoft again. And lastly, I gave my thoughts in that video about what I thought was going on. So be sure to check that out, hit like and subscribe. That way you can get my videos and live streams and you can hear what I think. And now it's time to hear what you think. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I'm back, chat. We are back. And of course, while I was gone, nobody could be quiet. Like, everything had to happen. There was controversy. There was drama. There was so much about Xbox that we had to basically do two shows on Xbox. So the second show today will be with Kirk about Game Pass. So we're not going to be talking about Game Pass in this stream. I'm going to have to reboot Discord. It's not picking up my microphone because I guess we're dealing with a reboot. My computer must have rebooted while I was gone. It probably did some kind of a reset. So I'm going to restart Discord here. Hopefully we don't drop any frames. Sometimes when Discord opens, it's like, hey, I have to do 18 updates that I missed out on. And I have some people to thank that are in here doing super chats. Let me get going here on the live show stage, and let me undeafen there. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, you guys that listen in the Discord. You got feed Cardoc Ren. Let me make sure I'm not missing anything. So Rich Rod comes in with a $2 super chat tip, says Lono comes back from vacation and chooses violence. I'm not choosing violence. I'm just covering what I feel is the biggest news stories. And Cardoc Ren, Han shot first, and so did you, coming out of the gate swinging with a 5 bomb. And that's going to set us on our way. This week's goal is 400, and we will do an amazing thing on Friday night that I haven't chosen yet because I'm just got back in town and got everything to go for today so that you guys would have a video, and then you'd have 2 live shows. And Behemoth renews with 38 months and says, welcome back, Bro Sexy. Says, hope you had a great vacay 1 month ago. Thank you for 23 months on a VIP, almost 2 years, Bro Sexy. 10 months from P-Dub H-Town with a member plus. Says, last week was rough due to you being on vacay, but that's a testament to your show's importance to my weekly routine. Glad to have you back. Thank you so much, PWH down. And then Infinite with 23 months on a VIP says, the return of Lono. And then Edward Hulse with 10 months and a member plus says, welcome back, Lono. What a topic to discuss on my birthday. I'm really interested to see where Project Latitude goes from Microsoft. Welcome back, says Rissick, 32 months on a VIP. And then Ghostface with 21 months on a VIP says, welcome back, fam. Hard to work without the lurk. Thank you guys so much for being here. So yeah, you guys had Writer's Room. That's a great reason to be a member. You guys had the opportunity to hang out all week long with Creature. I believe you guys just did that in the Discord. I don't think we actually did anything on the channel. I was extremely busy. We went to Stone Mountain, which is maybe 30 to 40 minutes away from Atlanta, and I was driving into Atlanta every day to do fun things with my family. We met halfway with my wife's family from Florida, and we did everything. We did the Natural History Museum, the aquarium, the zoo, the World of Coke. We did it all. So I wasn't able really to do anything while I was gone. Ghostface with 21 months. I already thank you for that one. Insomniac Black with 32 months says, I'm with Creature. You got to stop this. Oh, I need to go on vacation with my family. BS. When crap starts happening, enough is enough. Good to see you back, my guy. Hope you had fun. Hey, I'm back just in time, baby. It's heating up. We know it's heating up. We're going to get an announcement this week about the PlayStation Showcase. I told you guys that it would likely land on that final week. I'm thinking the 29th or the 30th. You got to trust me on this. Everybody kept thinking that we were going to get an announcement last week and that the showcase was going to be this week. No, you trust me on these things, all right? I told you, I was like, last week, it'll be the last week of the month. And yeah, World of Coke. World of Coca-Cola. Yeah. I was in your neck of the woods. Yeah, we had fun. Talica with 23 months in a VIP. Thank the YouTube gods, you are back. I didn't know what to do last week. You're never allowed to have another vacation. Well, I'm not taking another trip until like July, so you guys are good. Catherine Toasty Buns with a gifted member. Thank you so much for doing that, bumping the line to 6 members, getting us well on our way to that first 25 where I have to give 5 back, and we are shooting for 400 members this week. That's the weekly goal, and we'll celebrate with something fun on Friday night. You guys will have to help me think of a good incentive because you got me to fight Moog. You got your rage and your frustration, and then you guys had to help me beat Moog because I was like, I'm over it. I'm not enjoying this fight. So I got backpacked through the Moog fight, and I don't care. 5 spot from Michael says, I think they will do both a handheld hybrid as well as a normal high-performance console. I just don't think so, brother. I really don't. I just do not hear... I listened to that Sarah Bond interview. I hadn't listened to it in its entirety. I only listened to that section where she kind of responded about the layoffs. And I was like, oh my gosh, when she talks about hardware, to me, it's never been more obvious that they're pivoting away from traditional console. They just are. You can hear it in the way she talks about it. C. Lou with 13 months in a member plus, and Cardoc Ren with 40 months in a VIP. Glad you're back. It was so quiet last week. Jaggy with 33 months in a VIP. Joker Quinn gifts a member, and Terminal Stupidity with a 5 bomb. Thank you guys so much. That's 6 more members coming in, taking us to the halfway point of the 25. You guys are freaking amazing. Thank you so much. Beat is a strong word. Who's talking about beat? This guy takes vacays like he takes... Oh, I do not. I haven't taken a trip in a really long time. What are you talking about? Creature with 37 months in a member plus says, this thing won't stop blinking. And TRM with 25 months in a VIP says, I'm going to Atlanta in a couple weeks on vacay. Glad you had a good one. Glad to have you back for the lurk. Thank you guys so much. If you guys enjoy this content, man, you make it happen. Keep doing those memberships and gifted memberships. Consider picking up your own membership so that way we can grow the member base. That's how we're able to do this full time. I literally was just able to take a great vacation with my family and not have to worry. Like, I didn't have that fear as a content creator. I was like, I know I'm going to come back and I know we're going to have support. We're going to be fine. Like, those fears as a content creator, I just don't have to experience that. And that's because of the way that you guys treat the channel and the way you buy in. I really greatly appreciate it. So take a second and smash the like button. There's almost 500 of you here already. Let's get us up to 200 likes. And another 5 spot comes in from Michael, and he says, I think so because Xbox console's gateway to Game Pass. Well, here's the thing, though, Michael. If you remember, okay, the future... No, I did not see any chicken bones. Sorry. We didn't walk around downtown Atlanta, though. We were only, like, parking in garages and going into places like the aquarium, so I didn't have an opportunity to look for the chicken bones. OG Armor with 25 months and member plus. Welcome back, Lono. I was way too productive at work in your absence. Yeah, they're going to expect you to do that all the time now, so good luck. You just played yourself. So, to respond to what you're saying here, Michael... I really don't think that they see the Xbox console as the gateway to Game Pass, because when Phil Spencer talked about the potential growth of Game Pass, he saw a larger opportunity to grow Game Pass in the Japanese PC market, and he also said I believe it was when they were dealing with the Brazilian regulators, that they had plateaued on console, and they really saw the largest opportunities for Game Pass growth on PC, as well as probably mobile. So I don't think so. Like, if they view Game Pass as plateaued on console, then why would they feel the need to continue to do a traditional console? Also, I'm talking like console PC hybrid handheld thing that would still serve as a gateway into Game Pass. But when I say traditional console, I mean there will not be like a box that's all it is a console. It will be a multifaceted piece of equipment, and it'll be more like a PC and a handheld. RPG gifts a member and takes us to 13, and then Sadiqua gifts 5 and takes us to 18. A nice strong start for my return. Yes, I have returned, and I'm back. And Danny with 25 months and a VIP and a $2 super chat from Otagon Ocelot says, my area also, Lono, they did the light show there. We were not there in time for the light show. We got there on Sunday, and the family they were already there. They had gotten there like the day before. And when we got there, we would have had to like immediately like unload our car at the Airbnb and then like fly to where they were doing the light show. So we didn't make it there. So that was the one thing throughout the week that we missed. Ant with 33 months in a VIP and Magic Dolphin with 11 months in a VIP. Creature looks different today. Thank you so much, Magic. Appreciate that. Appreciate you guys coming back. If you're wanting to discuss the changes coming to Game Pass, That'll be the second show today. So I don't want to gobble that up. We're mainly talking about like Project Latitude, what that means for Xbox as a platform, what that means for like sort of the future of their, if they do a console. Michael comes in with another 5 spot and says, yes, agreed. PC is where the growth is, but the Xbox console is still the primary way of Game Pass, with the most subscribers being from the Xbox console. I actually thought that's incorrect. I may be wrong here, but I thought the recent reports indicated that most of the Game Pass users were on PC. Wasn't it something like that? I'm not stating this as fact. I'm thinking this is what I heard. Okay, I thought it was like 15 million were on PC and about 10 million were on console. Didn't we learn from the FTC trial that more Game Pass subscribers were on PC? Because I remember being shocked by that. I was like, really? On PC? I would have assumed it would be the other way around. Preacher saying the bulk of Game Pass users are on PC. Xbox is no longer the age of Microsoft gaming has begun. Yo, what's good, Brooklyn Breed? Good to see you, my friend. Incorrect. 20 mil on PC and like 10 on console. Oh, the number's different now, right? Because they did the Game Pass core thing where they brought over all the Xbox Live people. Right. Okay. Yeah, Creature has a new badge. He does. Are you confusing it with Game Pass Ultimate? No, I swear that there was a report that came out about this, that there are more Game Pass subscribers are on PC. And again, if you combine that with what Phil Spencer said, I don't see the console being that. I also just don't think that that's their goal long term. I don't think their goal long term is like, well, we need to get another console out there so that we can, make sure that we have tons of people on consoles signing up for Game Pass. I don't think they care about that at all. Like, did they really want to make a console that they sell at a loss to get you on a subscription? I don't think that's their goal anymore. I really don't. Like, I think Project Latitude shows you that Satya's walked in the room and he says, listen, we're moving. This stuff's got to go over. We're not doing this anymore. We're not doing the traditional. That's why in my video, you guys have got to check out my video about this. It just went live today. It's what leads into this live discussion. And in that video, I walk through the history of consoles. Okay, if you go back to Coleco, it's like Atari, Coleco, and then you have Nintendo, Sega, and then you get into the Xbox era and the PlayStation era. It's like that's how consoles have sold themselves. I think the Atari came out 47 years ago. So that's why I said in my video, for roughly 50 years, the consumer expectation has been that if you buy a console, that's the motivator. All these people that have argued against exclusives and they're like, there shouldn't be exclusives. I'm like, well, then what would motivate you to buy the console? I guess the tech and how fast or strong it is. That's not how anybody has ever thought about console purchases historically. Now, in the most recent years, we have certainly seen that part of the marketing of, hey, this console's faster and stronger, but faster and stronger than the previous one that you had, right? It's not like, oh, we're faster and stronger than those guys over there. It's now we can do this with our console. If you go back and look at like the original Xbox Series X and Project Scarlet marketing and then the PlayStation 5 marketing, they were largely speaking to people who already had their console or were sort of in the market for thinking like, oh, it's time to go into like the next generation power. But it was never that alone. That's the only thing we're selling the console on is performance. You always leverage your property, whether it's Mario or Zelda or Gears of War or Halo. You leverage the property, and to abandon that entirely would mean that you're completely shifting what you think about your platform. Like what's going to motivate you to buy an Xbox? Well, I think that's why all the rumors are PC hybrid. That's why all the rumors point to maybe something that's like a handheld, because they're going to have to sell you on features. They're going to have to sell you on features. They're not going to be able to be like, oh, well, if you want to play Halo, you got to come here. You want to play Gears of War, you got to come here. That idea is going to be gone in like 5 or 6 years. It's not even going to be a thought. You're not going to think of Xbox in that way. You're going to think of Xbox as an ecosystem. You're going to think of them as Game Pass. You might think of them as a mobile provider. As Sarah Bond indicated, they're going to have their own like browser store. I told y'all they were going to do that. Remember when we were talking about Xbox's push into mobile? And remember what I said? I said they're going to provide their games through the browser because they helped Epic Games and Fortnite get around the Apple policy by basically leveraging their own cloud solutions. Okay? So in that situation, I said Microsoft has already shown, Xbox has already shown a willingness to circumvent Apple's policy. So that's why when she said that, I was like, I told y'all that's what they were going to do. They're going to take all their mobile stuff and they're going to put it in a browser. They might even deprecate those games and just tell you, hey, the latest version of this game, like Candy Crush 2 or whatever, they'll be like, you need to download the new version, and then that new version will only be available through the Microsoft Mobile Store. And so I just don't think you're going to think of Xbox the way that you think of them right now. I think they're going to look completely different in the realm of there'll be this ecosystem Game Pass cloud thing where you can play their stuff on your TV or your mobile or your tablet, but they're also going to be taking their largest property and saying, let's just put it everywhere. There's no reason to take your mainstay flagship franchises and keep them on one platform. There's no reason to do that anymore. That's from an old strategy. That's why in the opener to my Project Latitude video, I said, well, if you look at Nintendo, if you look at Sega, if you look at the original Xbox, if you look at the PlayStation 1, that's how you sold the console. You used the games to sell the console. Asmongold thinks Microsoft should go the way of Steam. I mean, at one level, they're kind of doing that, but at another level, I don't think you can necessarily just become like a storefront platform when you own that much property. Steam doesn't own, the likes of Activision, Blizzard, and ZeniMax. Trill with 23 months in a VIP, bro, think he can just come back from a week vacation and think I'm going to still keep giving you my money? The gall of this man. Thank you so much, Trill. And then another 5 spot from Michael. I think they will have to do a console because the handheld won't be as strong and could be the next Series S in a problematic way. I don't know enough to comment on the potential strength of the handheld because people start talking about the handheld and they start talking about stuff that I'm not well versed in. They start talking about, what are they, ARM something? I don't know what any of that is, but people seem to be thinking, this is just a vibe I've been getting, that handhelds are going to become more powerful, more, maybe not more affordable, but basically the gist is that I feel like people are confident handhelds are going to get better. Yo, what's good, Hilly? I had a really great holiday. Yo, Gordon McLennan, welcome back as a member. So I don't have enough info and expertise to push back on what you're saying, Michael, but the general gist and the vibe I get is that handhelds are going to get stronger. You're saying that Spider-Man and God of War games are coming to Xbox? No, I've not said anything to indicate that at all. This is about an internal move and an internal strategy push from Microsoft, an internal strategy push from Satya Nadella called Project Latitude to say, we own really big pieces of property. Let's take it to PlayStation. Yo, Saint Nil with 12 months. God bless, Lono. Hope the vacay was good and you've come back well rested. Thank you. PlayStation's going to do their thing this week, right? They're going to do their, I forget what it's called, corporate something strategy, blah, blah, blah. That's going to be a huge indicator that I think they're going to push heavier into PC. After what happened with Ghost of Tsushima and Helldivers, yeah, guaranteed. Now, I don't know if they're gonna go day and date, but I guarantee you that'll be the dialogue this week in gaming about PlayStation. Anything they say in that strategy call is going to be construed as they're going to go day and date on PC. I think they're going to shrink the window, but I don't know if they go day and date just yet. I think that is like a PlayStation 3 era. But even that's not a Project Latitude vibe or idea. That's a let's maximize profit and go to a platform where we're seeing great success. I don't think you would see that go in the direction to Xbox. Third-party developers are questioning bringing their games to Xbox. Why would PlayStation or Nintendo do it? That doesn't make any sense. When your hardware sales are so abysmal that even third-party developers are like, why would we go over there? And you're taking your own property and saying, this isn't going to do enough here, let's take it elsewhere. that's another signal that from a business perspective, it would make no sense for PlayStation or Nintendo to bring games to Xbox. There's no money in it. They wouldn't make any money. It would be they'd take a bath. You're going to spend all that money to port a game to a platform, hurt your own identity, hurt your own draw as a platform and a console to go to a platform where you're not going to make any money. Well, not make it back at least. You're not going to make profit. What's that say? A bone slide clean with 20 months and a member plus. I'm ready to lay down these bad faith tribalists and some false dichotomies. So by golly, by gum, by Jiminy Christmas, let's go. I don't say by I do say golly. I say dad gum. You almost got it. Coffee is not available until Wednesday, I'm being told. Sorry if you guys are trying to order. I know you said not out loud, creature, but you know. People need to know. If you guys are trying to order coffee, you're going to have to wait till Wednesday. We didn't make that known. We were making some changes while I was gone. Last I checked, PlayStation's biggest selling game was COD. Okay. Does that matter? I mean, if they're making money off of it, I don't think that matters. Did you know that Apple makes more money than all of the gaming platforms and publishers combined? And that's all from games that aren't theirs? Michael with a 5 spot says, so if the Game Pass is comprised mostly of PC gamers and PlayStation games come to PC, so PC will get both sides of exclusives, PC is now the best place to game. From a subjective value position of you're willing to wait for games, you're not wrong. I mean, waiting 4 years for Ghost of Tsushima, sure. Like, if you're willing to wait that long, I don't think what you're saying is incorrect. Yeah, if you're like, hey, I don't mind waiting, especially, I mean, think about it right now, seriously. I mean, I'll say it. If you have any semblance of a backlog, there's no reason to buy a PlayStation 5. There isn't. Unless you're like, I have to play the latest game right away, right? Ghost of Tsushima 2. Now, This again, this is something that PlayStation's really smart about, right? They brought God of War to PC, and then we have people in this community that were like, I gotta play Ragnarok, and they went and bought a PlayStation 5. So the only reason to buy a PlayStation 5 is like if you're just not patient, if you're like, no, I can't wait. And with how explosive Tsushima has been on PC, you could see people make that decision. When Tsushima 2 hits, people are going to say, I'm not waiting. You know, especially if it's a PS5 Pro Enhanced game. So there's a strong strategy there to say, listen, we're gonna put games over there and we're gonna make people really, really like them, and then the sequel's gonna come out and people are like, I gotta jump, whether it's Spider-Man 2, Tsushima, or Ragnarok. So sure, if you're like, hey, I can get Xbox Game Pass and I can get PlayStation games on PC, sure. That's a great value as a consumer. But it all comes down to what you value and what you want. There are people right now that are probably thinking, I'll buy whatever the next Xbox thing is just because they like Xbox, they like the ecosystem, they like the brand, whatever. And someone like me, I'm saying, I like having all of the systems, but if it gets to a point where I don't need an Xbox system because they're putting their games everywhere all of the time, the only reason I would buy into Xbox hardware in the future is for features. Some type of again, whether I can sideload Steam and have that in my living room, that's a huge win for me as a gamer. A handheld, that would be a nice win for me. I used my PlayStation Portal while I was away on vacay. I couldn't believe how well it worked. We actually had really good internet in the Airbnb. So, like, do you see what I'm saying? Like, your value system is going to determine where you go. That's why, like, the tribalism around platforms is just silly, because it's like, well, if you're PC Master Race, cool, man, that's your value system. But I have all of the things so that I don't have to, you know, like, oh, I gotta wait, or oh, I can't play that, or oh, I don't have access to that. 5 spot from Michael says, but isn't like streaming to PC available on PS Plus Premium? Oh, they've had that for a while. I don't know how good it is, though. I don't know if that would be the way that you would want to play. I don't have the info on that. I've not looked into that, because the last I heard about it, I think it was like a couple years ago, so maybe it's better now. It just wasn't very good. You did it through like a web browser, and it like didn't run well. From everybody I talked to said that it ran pretty poorly. So, yeah. Again, let's say you can do that. Let's say hypothetically Ghost of Tsushima 2 comes out and you're like, well, I'm going to play it through PS Plus on a web browser, if that's even an option. You're not going to want to do that for very long. It wouldn't, there's no way it's going to run that well. I know everybody's singing the praises of cloud gaming, and PlayStation's getting better results, and, if you can get the infrastructure to a better place, you need good internet in your neighborhood, but you also need good routing to wherever it is you're connecting. You could have amazing internet, and you get routed to a hub of cloud access that's, one state away, and you can't get a good connection. It doesn't matter how fast your internet is if you don't get routed to the actual server stack. If you don't get good routing, basically. It would be like, this train is really, really fast, and you're going to go from, Kentucky to Florida, and you're going to ride this train. They're like, this train's really fast, but half of the trip is spent in narrow, tight turn, mountainous regions where they have to slow the train down. Well, it doesn't matter how fast the train is at that point. Do you see what I'm saying? You're going to have choke points along the way that are going to slow. Oh, why does it take me 3 days to get down there? I thought this train was really, really fast. And they'd be like, well, the route to get there is poor. That's the best analogy I can think of. It's like, yeah, your internet can be insanely fast, but if the route to get to wherever the cloud server stack is, it doesn't matter. You're not going to have a good experience. That's why cloud gaming is just, in my opinion, cloud gaming is a long way off from satisfying the average consumer, because they'll have a bad experience, they won't know why, and then they won't go back. They won't do it, or they're certainly not going to pay for it if it runs poorly. You're going to pay for, like, imagine paying for a subscription service like Netflix or something, or Disney Plus or Hulu, and you go to watch something and it's terrible, and it's glitchy, and it's laggy, and it's buffering. Are you going to keep paying for that? No, you're going to cancel that evening. You're like, this is trash. That's how cloud gaming is going to be experienced by so many people. Oh, let me try this out, and then it's laggy and bad. Well, I'm not doing that, and then they're going to go back to not doing it. You need infrastructure to catch up in order for cloud gaming to get into a better place. If you want adoption rates of cloud gaming, you need the actual infrastructure that provides people with their internet to be better, so that way you don't get routed through some crappy city or through some bad hub. And even that's not a guarantee. Like, if we get citywide, what's the thing that they're supposed to be doing in my city? They had a 5-year build order 4 years ago, so yeah, it's probably not happening. Citywide fiber wouldn't necessarily even guarantee you good routing. You could still have a bad experience. I'm being told that you cannot stream PlayStation 5 games to PC even with premium. Okay. Like I said, hypothetically, even if you could do that, I don't think it'd be a good experience, but I'm being told you cannot do that. You can't. So, and listen, if this is the route that Xbox wants to take with Project Latitude, where they say, our games are everywhere. You can play it through your television. You can play it on PC. You can play it through xCloud. You can play it on Game Pass. You can play it on PlayStation. I think the goal there is just very, very different than traditional console offering. You're no longer... Think of it this way. You're no longer leveraging a game to sell a console. You're leveraging reach to sell a game. Do you see the difference? It's a completely different approach. That's why in my video, I started with Coleco, Nintendo, Sega, Xbox, PlayStation 1. Like, for 47 years, you see a game you want to play, and that drives you to buy a console, okay? That drives you to buy a piece of hardware. Xbox is no longer saying, let's leverage the game to sell the platform. They want to leverage the platforms to sell the game. It's such a bigger strategy that, like, you don't even know if it's going to work until they try it, because this could obviously backfire on them, because then what you're going to have is smaller studios are going to struggle making sure their game can hit all these different platforms. Does that make sense? Like, we've talked about this a lot with multi-plat titles. Multi-plat titles are the ones that consistently struggle with quality. They tend to come out too early. You're like, clearly this game needed another year, and the publisher doesn't want to wait another year, so they push out the game too early. Jedi Survivor is a perfect example of this, okay? They've got tons of money, they've got tons of talent, and the game comes out and it's clearly not ready. All right, so now I want you to imagine smaller studios with less bandwidth and, you know, less bandwidth is the best way to put it. They have less bandwidth, meaning bringing that project to market on multiple platforms is going to be more challenging. And in that, it's being more challenging to bring to market. You're then dealing with that threat of your game didn't sell enough copies, your game wasn't profitable enough. You're now done. We're gonna shut you down, because you're basically asking companies to expand their development bandwidth reach, but then that could fold back on itself, and then the game doesn't sell as well. Does that make sense? There's a real risk that these companies that recently got shut down, like these smaller studios. I watched Upper Echelon's video on this morning, and he just kind of went through, the bonus that Bobby Kotick got and like what that could have like run those companies for like 10 years. Now, he was obviously not drawing a direct connection and saying like Kotick shouldn't have been paid this money. He was just saying that there's now a very strong incentive to drive shareholder value and shareholder price by doing, very, very small microtransaction driven games that are lower in quality, and then the people up at the top get to cash out and leave, get their bonuses, and they don't care about the long-term effects. And in that, he was sort of going through the studio sizes of the studios that got closed down. And in those studios getting closed down, you have to think, if you're in that, 100 to, less than 200 employee range, suddenly being tasked with, you're now making this game for Xbox, PC, PlayStation. The Switch 2 is probably eventually in the mix there. I think that's a concern. Like, can those smaller developers do that? Even with indie titles, we've noticed recently, indie titles will hit Steam and Switch, or they'll hit Steam, and if they make enough money, then they bring the game to other platforms. We saw this with Death's Door. And we've seen this a lot with indie games recently, where they'll land on Switch and Steam at the same time, or just they'll land on Switch, or they'll just land on Steam, and if they do well enough, then you'll see them kind of stagger out their releases onto other platforms. They basically can then justify the funding and the spending and the investment of, well, our game did well enough, let's bring it to other platforms. Like Death's Door sold like 100,000 copies in its first week on Steam. It had this big explosion, and now it's on multiple platforms. So if that would be a concern for the more medium to smaller size studios, that Project Latitude would basically crush them. It's like you can't ask that of those studios, and then you're going to justify shutting them down because, like, well, you're less profitable games, or they weren't as good as quality or whatever. Not everybody can leverage Star Wars the way Jedi Survivor leveraged Star Wars. Like, that game sold well, and it shouldn't have, right? Smaller studios, smaller titles can't weather that storm because word of mouth and the reviews kill them. Jedi Survivor had like 9s and 10s and review outlets singing its praises. It gets media darling treatment. Nobody realizes it's going to run like cheeks on their consoles. Everybody goes and buys it because it's Star Wars. And then they've done fine. Now, smaller studios can't do that. They can't afford to do that. Derek says, if the mentality from the top is to ruthlessly cut any project or studio that isn't immediately profitable, they drastically limit their future pool of games from studios that may have hit smash hit grand slam on their second or third or fourth attempt. Studios don't wake up and make God of War Ragnarok their first effing try. It's a completely different paradigm, though, Derek. And MASH comes in with a 10 bomb and takes us to 28. He blasts past 25. We got really close there, and then we kind of slowed down, and MASH says, enough's enough. I'm going to be the agent of chaos. I'm going to blast past 25. I now owe you guys 5. And Patrick Q did a renewal and said, welcome back, Lono. Reminder to chat that the block button works really, really well. And thank you so much for that VIP. I appreciate you so much for doing that. And is this, let me see here. Let's do that. There we go. And then I owe you guys 5. So here comes the 5 that I owe you. If you guys just give me 1 second here. Every 25, I gift 5 back. That's why we roll the goal up. We say, hey, you guys hit it. If you hit another one, I'll just keep doing that. So welcome on in. If you get a gifted membership, you get access to our daily writers room. That's the behind the scenes where you get to see how the shows are made and how the shows come to be. It's a nice look into what we do here. You also get access to our members-only Discord and Friday night streams with my wife, and there'll be one this Friday. And the goal for this week is 400 members, which you guys crushed that before I left, but we took a week off, so we gotta get back up there and do it again. Mash is always causing chaos. He is. If I see Halo on PlayStation, I'm selling my Series X, says Brooklyn Breed. Guys, if you're enjoying the show, do me a favor and take a second and smash that like button. There's over 700 of you here. A lot of you guys get in and you get to lurking and you get to just listening. And that's so helpful. But it's really helpful when you're doing that listening and lurking that you do take that second to hit that like button. It helps us out immensely, and we greatly appreciate you. And thank you so much, Kale, with 23 months on Member Plus. She says, welcome back. When can we order coffee? The site is down for me. Wednesday, Kale. We're making some changes and getting back to basics where I'll be able to shout out your username when you order coffee and all of that. So that'll be on Wednesday. We went to make some changes while I was gone. They're just not done yet. This is true. I do be lurking. Mm-hmm. You guys do lurk, and we love you. We love our lurkers. But take a quick second, minimize chat. Make sure the thumbs up is saving. Let's try to hit 300 likes. That should be really, really easy. You know, we've got 730 people here. That should be very, very easy to hit 300 likes. I blame good discussions in chat keeping me engaged, says Mash. That's right. Anyone who says Xbox is outselling PlayStation is lost. I mean, I don't know who's saying that. I mean, at this point, I do think there are people who say things that they know aren't true, like just to get a reaction. In general, I've just kind of moved on from even replying to that and engaging with those people. I just don't think it's worth it. They're not looking for a conversation. They're looking for a reaction. And I don't even want to give them that. So it's like, I saw some of the comments this morning. I wasn't even paying any attention to it. Like, why? It's just like, no, that's not true. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, why even bother? Vacay was good, Delta. Thank you for asking. Glad you and the family had a good trip. Welcome back. You gonna try the D4 Loot Reborn? No. I don't have any interest in going back to Diablo at this point. I know everybody's saying good things, and that's exciting, but tomorrow's going to be a Hellblade day, and then we're on the runway to all the showcases and stuff. Like, I don't really feel a need to go back and do anything with that game. Hilly says, if 117 being sold to willing customers on any platform provides revenue for a new Halo or bigger titles on Game Pass, I have no issue. Supporting Xbox as a fan should be cheering these recent changes, not the doom and gloom. Yeah, I mean, Hilly, I saw some of your videos, and the context of, like, you're saying people talk about the Xbox tax, but you want to talk about the Xbox rebate, like the good things that you can get from Xbox, which I think is an interesting POV, to especially going forward with how they're going to be handling the brand, right? Yo, what's good, Phantom? Thank you. Welcome back as a member plus. I definitely think that there is elements to how they're approaching this. Like, rebate's the right word, right? They're trying to approach everything from, like, the value offer of you get a ton, right? You get a ton of stuff for a low amount. In my mind, I'm not looking for that. Right, I'm not trying to save money. I'm not trying to save money. I'm trying to have what I think is the best experience possible. Now, that obviously is going to be subjective because there are going to be people that are like, well, then you should be on the strongest PC in the market, right? Or you should be on this system or that system or whatever. I generally am shopping for, like, look at Ghost of Tsushima right now on PC. Everybody is coming to the realization that, like I've said this for a long time. It's one of my all-time favorite games. It has one of the best combat systems I've ever played in an action game, in an open-world action-adventure game. And you're seeing all these people come to that realization. Like, I'm seeing people that are like, I don't even understand this game's score on Metacritic, which the original score for that game on Metacritic, I don't understand either, truly. It seems very low, because then the director's cut came out and it's a much higher score. And now it's, you know, it's soaring in interaction and it's soaring in praise on Steam. And I don't think it's because, well, the graphics are better. I think it's because people are experiencing a game that's just good. Like, if you get over some of those hang-ups about, like, well, it's on this platform and I heard all those games are movie games. Well, if you can get over that and just play the game, you'll see, oh, that's just like a weird talking point that isn't true. Do you see what I'm saying? How well do you think your PC is going to run Hellblade 2? That I don't know. The footage they released this morning, everybody's really upset at me on Twitter. They're like, where's the gameplay? Where is the gameplay? It was a PS4 game at 30 FPS, guaranteed that hurt the experience. Yeah, but back then, Eugene, weren't most of the games coming out being reviewed doing that anyway? Right? Like, it lost to TLU 2, and that's what TLU 2 was running at. I don't understand. I mean, maybe because it's more of a high action, there's more speed involved in what you're doing, and in Last of Us Part 2 that's not as necessary. It's more of a slower game, so it's less noticeable. I don't know. I have a 2080 Ti, and they put out a Hellblade 2 launch trailer today, and I felt like we got really good looks at gameplay, and everybody got really angry at me on Twitter, and they're like, where's the gameplay? What gameplay are you talking about? I'm like, what do you mean? Look at the trailer. There's long sequences of her running, of her walking, of her fighting. There's no more camera cuts. The light's not dark. It's like I can actually see what the heck is going on, and it looks really good. It looks really good. I was like, why is everybody so upset? That's gameplay in that trailer. Now, if the gameplay is genuine, is what I said, I'm way less worried about that game. It really looks significantly better than what we've seen up to now. If you like the first game, it won't flop as long as you enjoyed it. Hellblade 1 didn't sell well anyway, so not necessarily going to be a flop. Well, Hellblade 1 was more of a smaller, lesser-known game. It became kind of a cult classic, and it was also on multiple platforms. And it sold like 1 million copies? Like, I don't think it's going to do that. I don't think Hellblade 2 is going to outsell the first game. Now, it might if they can get it on PlayStation rather quickly, because it's the exact kind of game that PlayStation users like. It depends on what price point they want to put on it, though. You try and sell that for $70 on PS5, you might not do so well because of how short it is. Frisco, yeah, with 18 months, says, playing Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut Edition on the PC for the first time, it felt like I was watching a Japanese historical epic action drama. Listen, man, it's a work of art, you know? It's a work of art. You didn't see anything different in that trailer from what we've seen? I think that's a weird... Yeah, I don't agree with that at all. The trailers of her in the red light, you can't freaking see anything. It's quick. There's flashes. It's all foggy around her. It's like there's no draw distance at all. The latest trailer, I can see stuff in the background. I can see her clearly. I can see the animations clearly. I can see the moves. Like, it's far easier to be like, okay, this isn't chopped up. This isn't shrunk down. This isn't like trying to obfuscate, like, is that gameplay or not? It's like, I see that game far more clearly in that launch trailer than we've seen up to now. Is it really only 4 hours? No, I don't know who's saying that. Nobody knows if it's 4 hours or not. The original game is 8 if you just go right through it. It's closer to 9 or 10 if you take your time, right? There are some areas where you can't go back, but there are areas where you can double back and you can like look for secrets. There are areas where you go all the way through and you do something and then you have to go back to where you came from, and in the process there are secrets and runes to find. And if you aren't familiar with the game and you're checking every corner and you're checking every little waterfall for like the one, there's like faces and stuff to look for in the one area. If you're doing that, it'll slow you down a little bit. But on average, the first game is going to take you around 8 hours. Maybe closer to 10 if you're just going slow, taking breaks, getting distracted. As a streamer, you know, when I play a game like that, I'm stopping, I'm talking to chat, whatever. But the next game, Hellblade 2, is supposed to basically be the same length, roughly. Somehow the length of the game keeps going down. Yeah, it was like, first it was 10, then it was 8, then it was 6. Now people are saying 4 hours. I'm like, I don't know where you're getting this. Everything's under NDA right now. So... hang on. Hilly said something in the Discord. He says, I understand your Switch makes complete sense, but Game Pass was the perfect solution for Xbox when they lost the console generation when digital libraries were built. It's very clever. Someone picking up the box has an instant digital library. Now they need to drive the value, keep the cost as good as possible. Like Game Pass would be the lifeboat for Series S and X. If they do bring new hardware, which includes Steam, etc., their offering could be very strong. Here's the issue with that, though, Hilly. If Phil Spencer is correct that establishing the digital library, okay, is so important, you build that digital library and it dictates kind of where you land, okay? You don't have a digital library with Game Pass. You're not building anything. Does that make sense? That's one of the things I think that makes their plan. It can't center around Game Pass anymore. Now, I'm going to be doing a show later with Kirk about the changes that we think are coming to Game Pass. We're going to be covering Call of Duty is coming. We're hearing from insiders. We're hearing from people who are very reliable that price changes are coming. Changes to the tiers are coming. And this is all centering around Call of Duty. So that's the show later. So I don't want to get into that with you. But I will speak on the general strategy of Xbox. I don't think is centering around Game Pass anymore. I don't think so. Because you don't build a library, which means you don't establish this sort of sticky, I can't leave sentimentality in the player. It's like, do you feel that with Netflix or Hulu or any of those places now? No, you don't. You don't feel any loyalty to them. You cancel it when there's nothing to watch. And then you go back. Now, yes, there are a large number of people that just completely forget. And they just let the subscription just kind of keep going. But generally speaking, now people are treating subscriptions like I set alerts in my phone. On this date, cancel HBO. On this date, cancel Peacock, right? Because I'll get like a special deal. You go to cancel, and then they give you a special deal. And then I put the reminder in my phone like... when the deal falls off. Oh, Keely responded to me. Let's see. Bunny, where is that? It was in Georgia, near Atlanta. Atlanta was on my way back to Kentucky. It was in Georgia near Atlanta. Was on my way back to Kentucky. There you go. Yeah, Keely replied to my tweet. I said, Keely Drive. It's spelled like his name and everything. I was like, it's time. Summer Game Fest is almost here. That's cool that he replied. Xbox dude said it was debunked. He said they took what I said out of context. Not what I wrote, just that Satya wants it. He's not been shy about this. There's no confirmation yet. There is no true red line. I only quote Jez Cordon in the video. Like, if anybody is going to try to run with the idea that, well, Cordon said he was taken out of context. I didn't quote other articles. I didn't quote anybody's summary of his comments. I just quoted his article. I just went to him and was like, this is what he's saying. He's saying that internally, they're referring to this as Project Latitude, and that they don't see a red line. They're just like, move anything that is worth it. Move anything that we feel is going to generate money. AOZ with 22 months on a VIP. Game Pass is very clever if the financials work out. They aren't. It's like coming up with radical solutions that don't work. Let's create teleportation then. We don't need transportation. Kicking it with Timmy B with a VIP renewal. Welcome back. Kicking it with Timmy B. Appreciate you, dude. Like, if Jez feels like he was taken out of context by some of the articles, that's fine. I didn't do that. I went to his article. I quoted him directly. I'm like, here's what he's saying. What games do you think are the obvious games that would make the jump? Like what? Right? Like, he's saying there are going to be obvious games that make the jump. Well, what games do you think those are going to be? Halo, Gears, Starfield. What else would it be? What are you going to move Redfall? Now, Forza is a different animal because of GT7 or GT in general, Gran Turismo in general. So I don't know if Forza is an obvious choice. But like, if you're going to talk about obvious choices, wouldn't you pick the big three? I mean, Doom. I guess you could throw in Doom. But even then, that's not moving. That would be a future Doom that would just be multiplat. If you're talking about porting, developing, bringing titles over that are not presently, that have already launched, I should say, of course you would think of those titles. It'd be like Halo and Gears and Starfield. A 2-spot from Eric says, you can buy games at a discount on Game Pass and keep them. You certainly can, but that's not what most people are doing. Xbox themselves admitted that Game Pass cannibalizes sales, so it's not increasing sales, it's decreasing them. Mike on a mic says, I live in Atlanta, sir. Should have pulled up. Welcome back. Listen, I would have pulled up and got a plate, but we were so busy. Like, we were so busy. We were constantly going somewhere, and Atlanta traffic is terrible. I now have a city that I dislike about as much as LA for its traffic. It was freaking awful. It was awful, bro. Everybody was really friendly. Everybody was really nice, but the traffic was atrocious. Eugene says he wasn't even taken out of context. He was grossly misquoted. So who misquoted him and how? I just went to him. Right, like, I just went to his article and I was like, okay, what's Jez saying? Let's see. What is this Project Latitude thing? So I went to his article, and that's the only thing I quoted in the video, as well as his tweet about Tango closing down. That was it. That was the only thing I quoted. No, I've never been to Savannah. As long as those games have cross-play with multiplayer games, it's a win. Oh, I don't disagree with you at all. I don't care if live service games go everywhere. When Helldivers 2 first came out, I said that. I was like, I don't care if it goes to Xbox. That's just more people to play. What context is missing? Yeah, he says, from what I've heard, Microsoft is pushing for no red line for what games could come to PlayStation. And it all revolves around Satya Nadella and CFO Amy Hood's mandate to increase every department's margins. We literally quoted that in the video. Like, that's what he said. That's in the article. We put it up on the screen so everybody would know. Like, from what he's heard, they're pushing for no red line. Now, you could say that, well, people ran with the fact that there's no red line, anything can come, and it hasn't happened yet. So it's being pushed for. Well, okay. I mean, the media in general misquoted him as saying there's no red line. He never said that. He said there was discussions about removing any red line. Yeah, but listen to what I just said. If Microsoft is pushing for no red line. No, I agree with that. Yeah, they shouldn't have said there is no red line. They should have said Microsoft is moving to remove a red line. It should have been talked about as this is in progress or this is in process. Yeah, I actually agree with that. That's not good reporting. It's just semantics. No, it's like when they said that PlayStation 5 was entering its latter stages, which is false. They said latter half. Latter stages sounds like it's getting ready to end. Latter half means we're in the second half. It's completely different. That the phrases mean different things. It's not semantics. It isn't. I took issue when people were misquoting Sony. If people are out here misquoting Jez, you should take issue with that. That's bad reporting. If he comes to you and says Microsoft is pushing for no more exclusives, okay? Let's just say that that's what he comes to you and he says that in an article. He says Microsoft is pushing for no exclusives. And somebody reports and says Jez Cordon claims no more exclusives for Xbox. Those aren't the same thing. They're not. Yeah, like what Eugene says, you know, my wife is really pushing me to move to a different part of town. False summary. Lono's moving to another part of town. No, I'm not. I'm being pushed to do that. I have not yet decided to do that. Now, people would say, well, if your wife's pushing you to do it, then it's going to happen, right? If Microsoft is pushing Xbox to do this, it's going to happen, right? That's fine if you want to make that assessment after properly quoting him. If you want to say, listen, if Microsoft is pushing for this, that's what I did in my video. I said, listen, I have a hard time imagining Xbox leadership being able to hold the line against what Microsoft is saying. Microsoft is the dad in the car, and they're like, I'm driving. Get out. Get in the passenger seat. I'm taking the wheel. I'm driving the car now. That's what's going on. Like, there is no... You don't go to Microsoft after spending $70 billion and say, we really don't want to do that, or we're really not going to do that. That's not going to happen. So it's okay if somebody wants to properly quote him and then they want to make their own assessment, prediction, or judgment like I did and say, yeah, it's unlikely Microsoft is going to be able to push against this. I'm sorry, it's unlikely that Xbox is going to be able to push against this. Xbox is not going to be able to tell Satya, no, we're not doing that. Yeah, Xbox has no power in the situation. Exactly, Leo. Hilly says, in my mind, it makes sense to ship Bethesda games to Sony, but Gears and 117 feels wrong. They need a solution to devaluing hardware offering and having less exclusives. But imagine this with me, Hilly. If Microsoft has said that that's not our future, you guys keep operating. Jez operated under this in his article. He's operating under this idea that, well, this is a failure or this is a mistake because you're devaluing this. And Microsoft's response is probably, we're not devaluing it. We just don't value it anymore. Like, follow the logic of my video, okay? If you haven't checked out my video, go check it out. Xbox, what is Project Latitude, all right? Make sure on this video, this is the live discussion, smash that like button. Let's set our sights on 400 likes. There's almost 800 people here. What a strong welcome back. Usually when we take a trip, you know, and I come back, everything is terrible for a couple of days. We're back and swinging today, so thank you guys so much for the strong response. I love coming back from vacay and seeing this, and you guys have already hit the first member goal of the day, all right? Okay, so if they no longer value the console, then it's not a devaluation. Follow the logic of the video. My video about Xbox Project Latitude. Okay, follow the logic. I opened the video by saying, traditionally, getting people to buy a console was leveraged and achieved with an exclusive. You had to get a Nintendo to play Mario. You had to get a Sega Genesis to play Sonic. You had to get an Xbox to play Halo. You had to get a PlayStation 1 if you wanted to play Metal Gear Solid. That's how they got you to buy their hardware. So, if Xbox is basically eroding that idea and being like, we're not doing that anymore, then the natural conclusion, the only conclusion I can come to is they are no longer prioritizing selling traditional console model. It just doesn't matter to them. It's not the goal. That's not the point. You're like, oh, but you're devaluing hardware and you're devaluing the brand. They're like, no, we're not. No, we're not. That's not a priority anymore. You can't devalue something that's no longer valued. It's just been moved off the table. It's not a primary. It's just not a primary focus of the brand right now. With Xbox Direct coming up in June, what do you think they will announce? That's an excellent question. Like a showcase prediction stream and video is probably in order. We'll probably do that maybe a little bit closer. Once we're in June. I need to do one with PlayStation as well. We just need PlayStation to officially announce it. It's going to be the what did I say? The 29th or the 30th? That's been my prediction for a while. The PlayStation Showcase will be the 29th or the 30th. They're going to be involved with Summer Game Fest, so they can't be this week. That'd be too early. They need to be as close to June as possible. So the 29th or the 30th. I don't think they would do it on the 31st. They might. It's a Friday. They typically do things on Wednesdays and Thursdays, typically. I don't know why, but that's how they typically do. So we'll do one for that as well. But that's an excellent question. The Xbox Showcase. Listen, just track with me on this. All right. If you're going to clip, get ready. Last year, they followed the PlayStation. I'm sorry. Last year they followed up the Xbox Showcase with a Starfield Direct. Okay. First party piece of property, Xbox exclusive, their biggest game that year. Now this year, they're saying, well, we're going to follow up our Xbox Showcase with a Call of Duty Direct. A multi-plat game. And yes, they own it. They own it. But it's a multi-plat game. So to me, I think that's a decent indication that they're willing to use their platform and their airtime in June to talk about games that are not just landing on Xbox. Now, the pushback would be, but it's Call of Duty, Lono. It's their biggest first-party release this year. You would be correct. I think that's a fair pushback to what I'm saying. I'm not drawing a straight line. I'm just saying I think you could look at that and you could say, they're changing their approach, and it's happening at a breakneck speed. There's no confidence at all in my mind that the Xbox Showcase is only about exclusives. Right? Like, that's not even going to be an idea in the showcase. I don't even know if they're going to utter the word exclusive. That idea is gone. And if that idea is gone, and you're no longer marketing that way, you're no longer saying those things, then why not talk about the next game coming to PlayStation or Nintendo? Why not? Where's the harm? What are you harming by doing that? Xbox equals Steam. Software centric, hardware secondary. Thank you for the 2-spot, Eric. Guys, do me a favor and double check that like. I don't know if it's saving. Make sure if you're lurking and listening that you minimize the chat and do that. Let's make sure YouTube's not acting funky on that one. It's done this before. Yeah, Summer Game Fest starts. I believe June 7th, and the Xbox Showcase is June 9th. They like to do their showcases on a Sunday because they like to make me leave church early. Xbox hates God. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, so June 9th. So we'll be covering that, co-streaming that, and yeah, that'll be the goal that day. We'll be covering everything that happens as best we can with co-streams. PlayStation Showcase, Summer Game Fest with Jeff Keighley, as well as the Xbox, Showcase. Have not heard from Phil. Yeah, Phil Spencer has been, pretty quiet. He has been pretty quiet. And I don't know what the reason for that is. Seems like people are nervous that Hellblade 2 is going to actually be pretty good. Even Red Dragon's responding to my stuff. He's like, face shot, face shot, face shot. Slow-mo running, face shot, walking, face shot, slash shot, face shot, punch, face shot. I feel so much better having seen this. Come on now. Well, instead of taking your glasses off, Red Dragon, maybe put them back on and actually watch the trailer. Like, they actually show far more detail. And there's no quick cuts. There's no dim lighting. It's not like you're not like squinting to see what's going on. Since the beach trailer, I think that's the best showing of gameplay that we've had. I do. I think you can clearly see what's going on. You can see the environments. You can see the lighting. You can see the animations. It's not some shrunk down little room with like fog and dim light. It's like, what's going on? Like, you can clearly see the environments. You can see the particle effects, the lighting effects. You can see the scope of the environments beyond just that little circle that she's fighting in. That's some of the best looker gameplay we've received. Alex with a $5 super chat says, Microsoft is heathen sounds about right as an Xbox user. And man, I tried to warn y'all. Gotta watch out for Microsoft. Xbox isn't the problem. SSJ go... What the frick? Something was crawling on me, Chad. I think it was a spider. Something. We get spiders in the house this time of year. And I think one was on my leg. It scared me a little bit. 24 months says Red Badge Club. Woo. Thank you so much, SSJ Gohan, for a VIP. 24 months. I think Hellblade 2 will be a Game of the Year candidate. Based on what I saw in today's launch trailer and based on the people that are playing it are like squealing. They're trying not to say anything. I think it's actually going to score quite well. Yeah. I think Hellblade 2 is going to score quite well. Now, user scores, I don't know. People may take issue with if it's not optimized well, length of the game, if it doesn't run well on Xbox. There's all of those things that we don't yet know. I think the outlets, I think it's going to score rather well. Yeah, I think based on what I'm seeing from the people who have access right now, and based on that launch trailer, I think it actually scores well. I think it's going to be high 80s. It might squeak into the 90s, but I think it'll be high 80s. Yeah. Found a Hornet in the house a few days ago. The thing was huge. Yeah, I mean, I'm in the basement. I don't think a Hornet or a Wasp could get all the way down here, but spiders get in here because they get into the ducts, like your air ducts. It's going to sell horribly. The studio's in trouble. Yeah, but that's a different question, though, isn't it? That's a different question. Tomorrow, what we will likely do is I will boot up, and we did this with Stellar Blade. I'll just boot up. I don't think we'll do an upload tomorrow. I think we'll boot up, and I'll just do a review roundup with you guys, and then we'll play the dadgum game, and we'll see for ourselves. I think it'll be a good day. I'm excited. It's my most anticipated game this year. I'm trying not to put on rose-colored glasses, but that launch trailer, it won some confidence back. I was worried. I was like, I don't know. I have a video that, I think the game's in trouble. Excuse me. And then I saw that launch trailer, and I was like, that's a much better looking, sample of gameplay and environments. Do you have it installed ready? No. I mean, I can install it tonight. Returnal sold horribly? No, it didn't. No, if you look at any of the sales reports for Returnal's attach rate and total sales were great, considering it was a PS5 exclusive. That's not true at all. Oh, you think it's going to be a 92 Hilly, Hellblade 2, absolute Xbox rebate? Wouldn't play this if it was releasing tomorrow on PS5. 30 FPS, letterbox, low resolution equals no optimization. Yeah, we'll see. That could hurt it with the user score. We know that review outlets overlook that. We know this. They overlook those things. Like, they'll overlook... I mean, they did it with Jedi Survivor. They'll overlook it. On PC, Returnal sold poorly. Oh, yeah, it did not do well on PC. And that was... that was unfortunate because it should have crushed on PC. It's a rogue. And it's super creative. And it's an amazing port. But people saw the Epic Online Store boot up and they thought that it ghost installed the Epic Game Store. So day one, it kind of got obliterated, and it hurt its momentum, and then it just probably never recovered, which is unfortunate because it got high marks everywhere for being a really, really good port, and it's a fantastic game. I think it's still one of the best PS5 games to come out. If Returnal was a failure, why'd Sony buy the company? Yeah, it didn't sell poorly. It sold very well, reviewed well. I mean, the Metacritic score was not impressive because people weren't able to finish it. That's always going to be the struggle of a rogue, you know. That's one of the games that bums me out. Is like it doesn't get a fair shake. I myself didn't give it the greatest of scores because Biome 3 was imbalanced. They patched it. And then once I beat Biome 3, I beat 4, 5, and 6 and beat the game, and my entire opinion of the game changed. Well, that's really unfortunate, right? Like, you can't properly review that game if you can't frickin' beat it. Once you beat it, you're like, oh my gosh, this is a phenomenal game. But most of the review outlets couldn't get past Biome 3. So they had the same impression that I had. It's cool, it's fun, but I'm stuck. And that's just going to put a sour note on all of the reviews. Like, I remember reading reviews of people that were like, yeah, I can't get past Biome 3. And that hurt it. That's always going to be a risk with a rogue in general, is that people get stuck, you know. Especially when it's a hard rogue, you know. If they don't have access to the game long enough to get far enough, it's going to be an issue, you know. It also hit PS Plus pretty quick, which hurts as consoles became available. Yeah, I don't remember that. That's where I quit Returnal. Yeah, Biome 3. Yeah, they've patched it. It's much better now. A lot easier to get through Biome 3. They had like mini bosses that were hitting harder than Biome 2's boss. Like, you get in a fight with the frickin' astronaut and he'd like 2-tap you and you're like, what the heck's going on? Like, you couldn't get strong enough. Like, you'd get strong enough to take down Biome 2's boss, and then you get to Biome 3, and you'd get like freaking 2-tapped by a dadgum astronaut, and it was just frustrating. It was just tough. It was a pretty big spike, and they admitted it. That's why they toned it down. You know, fuel issue. Well, I mean, when the developers agree that it's not balanced properly, then there's no real debate to be had. Street Shadow with 2 months. I think what's key is sales expectations. Look at the Portal. We don't know what was expected for Returnal sales. Well, yeah, and the PlayStation Portals exceeded, you know, all expectations. So, okay, so let's take the discussion a little bit in a different direction, because I talked about this in the upload. All right, there's a section of my upload where I basically ask the question, where are we headed? You know, where is Xbox headed? And there's an entanglement in this discussion of, if Xbox is going in this direction, will it change the industry? Is the industry going in this direction? That's another part of this. So if Xbox goes into a direction that is more nebulous, more ecosystem, less platform driven, they're sort of this quasi publisher / storefront / ecosystem. More, yeah, like cloud based, like KB's saying. Do you think the other players are going to feel like they need to do something in that realm? All right, Hilly. I think the next Xbox will bridge the gap. Will bridge the gap between console and PC, and then turn the Series S into a handheld. Critics also gave Final Fantasy 16 and Dragon's Dogma 2 passes as well, despite their performance issues. Excellent example, Lone Wolf. Yes, like, I don't think, if Hellblade 2 has performance issues, I don't think we're going to really hear about them tomorrow. I don't. Like I said, I think it's going to score well. From what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing, it's going to score well. High 80s. Maybe it pulls off a 90. I'll be thrilled if it pulls off a 90, because like, that'll really, really... I don't know if that protects Ninja Theory, but I hope that it does. I hope it does. I hope it protects them. Since Microsoft owns a good chunk of the industry, of course it will affect it. So, okay, so do you think that Nintendo and PlayStation are going to have to change what they're doing? There's people that think that. They think that the other platforms are going to have to follow suit here. Sony already has better cloud performance than Microsoft. This is true from everything we've seen and heard. Even people that like xCloud have been pretty critical of it. Right? They've been critical of the slowness of features. You know. That's always going to be, I think, a difficulty. I'm curious to see how game quality shifts or doesn't shift under the new model, particularly with Call of Duty. That's another question. Right? That's another question, because in the past, I had said that I liked the idea of Xbox getting away from a cadence rhythm strategy and lean more towards quality. Like, if you're trying to feed Game Pass, then cadence is all that matters. That's why you ended up with Redfall, and that's why you ended up with Forza Motorsport. Games that just shouldn't have come to the market when they did. Even as bad as Redfall was, if you let it cook for another year, they could have made it at least passable. It still would have scored poorly and not been a highly praised game, but it would have been far more passable if it had a lot of the tender love and care that they tried to give it in the aftermath. Unfortunately, right, their bite back editions aren't coming and all of that. So if you're moving away from cadence and you're moving towards quality, I would think that that'd be a good thing. But the problem is that if you're moving into the publisher mindset and profit is the ultimate goal, the concern would be if you read Jez Cordon's article and then you watch Upper Echelon's video about this idea of executives making decisions that will boost share value in the short term, and they don't care what trajectory it sets for the studios or the property, then that to me doesn't give me confidence in the quality. It's like, well, are we going to get quality? Or are you guys just going to try to push out games as fast as you can and drive share value by saying, look at how much profit we're generating, look at how much revenue we're generating, and if the scores are bad, so what? Right? When you're one of the biggest publishers in town, a lot of the review outlets aren't going to cross you. You're going to get media darling treatment. You'll be able to squeeze out pretty decent Metacritic scores, and everybody ignores the user scores, right? In these debates, that happened constantly with Starfield. Everybody always brought up the Metacritic score, and it's like, well, if you look at the user scores, it's not good at all. But that doesn't matter if you're trying to just generate hype, media treatment, sales, revenue, share value goes up. So, like, yeah, if we move away from the cadence strategy of just feeding Game Pass, that could be a good thing, but it could also be a bad thing, because now your primary goal and your primary, business philosophy is crank the games out and get them out the door. We're not getting away from cadence. If anything, we're in the same paradigm of get the games out as fast as possible. Rich Rod with the $2 super chat says, remember Ubisoft owns a cloud version of COD. I think that's only in that one region, isn't it? Mick D09 with 28 months in the VIP. Welcome back. Hope you had a relaxing vacay with the family. Thank you so much, Mick D09. Well, if you're a parent, there's no such thing as relaxing on vacay. I'm relaxing right now. We had fun. We did. But when you're the dad, that's stressful, man. I did more driving in this last week than I did all of 2024. Like, it was insane. I was in the car so much. 6 or 7 hours to get there. And then every day, roughly 2 hours in the car. And then Friday, even more than that. Friday was like 4 hours in the car. And then 6 hours to come back home. Ooh. Woo. There's nothing relaxing about that at all. I listen to a lot of audiobooks. The There's nothing relaxing about a family trip. There's nothing relaxing about a family trip when you're the dad. You need a vacation after your vacation? My kids were great too. Like it was like we had no issues with them. They had an absolute blast, right? An absolute blast. But it's just stressful. I think the mention of quality over quantity by these execs avoids some of the real issues, which is likely management. It's what Marvel said also, and it's too broad of a brush. Well, I mean, if there's anything you could say right now, it's that Microsoft is calling the shots, and if Microsoft's calling the shots, then, I mean, I don't want to do fear-mongering, but I would say be afraid. Like, be very afraid. If you think studio closures are the only thing we're going to get frustrated by as gamers, I think there's going to be so much more to be irritated by in the coming years. I mean that. Like, and this is where it's going to constantly get couched as you're just bashing Xbox. No, it's a Microsoft issue. Like when it came to Halo Infinite, I kept telling people, stop blaming 343. This is a Microsoft issue. Okay? And everybody turns it into, and see, this is what's so interesting about this, is that your tribalism for Xbox actually makes you an inadvertent, accidental enemy of Xbox. You're not in their corner. You're not in the developer's corner. You don't care about the property. You care about defending a brand. And in the process, you are their enemy. Because the problem is that there is no accountability at that point. Everybody just yells at 343, oh, it's 343's fault. You know, it's not Xbox's fault. It's not Microsoft's fault. It's just 343's fault. Eventually, you have to realize that Microsoft is the villain in the room. And if you see that for what it is, then you can be critical of that as a consumer and start to demand better and say, listen, you can't treat property like this. You can't treat developers like this. You can't treat creative enterprise the way that you do. It doesn't work. True SSJ Havoc with a $5 super chat tip says, welcome back, Lono. I'm late, but I got to see the upload. I agree with everything. Did you see Tim Dog's speculation of Game Pass price increases? I mean, respect to Tim. You know, he and I buried the hatchet. He's been very kind, both publicly and privately toward me after not being, and so I appreciated that. I don't think his speculation of Game Pass price increases going up, I don't think he's touching like a sage crystal ball or anything. I think there's internal leaks as well as just market analysis that says that is coming. And our second show today will be about Game Pass. So I think he's saying what a lot of people are saying. I don't think he's signaling that he's got inside intel. I think he just sees what's coming. If you're paying attention to even just not, you know, Game Pass or gamer discussions, if you're just paying attention to the market in general, prices on sub-services are going up. They just are. Then the next thing that's going to happen in TV services is they're all going to silo up and they're all going to combine, and then they're going to raise their prices again. Right? Would you be going over your thoughts of Assassin's Creed Shadows this week? I would like to do a video and a show about Assassin's Creed Shadows. Because, oh, buddy, do I want to slap some people right on the mouth. Just. The faster we push these drooling Neanderthals to the fringes of the gaming community, the better. Oh, my gosh. Yeah, I'll be playing Hellblade 2 tomorrow. Yes, sir. New strategy is amazing for xCloud and Game Pass. 4 AAA games every year. I mean, Jonas, if they can hit that cadence and the game quality is good and they sell well, then you're correct. Because I think they can bolster their services while also selling the property. Like, that's a win-win, right? That's a win. It's like, well, we're going to be able to boost xCloud and Game Pass's value with 4 big games a year. And we are also going to sell the games on platforms that have no issue buying games. PlayStation audiences have shown that, like, if you look at the sales of Helldivers or Stellar Blade, if you look at the sales of Call of Duty, if you look at the success of Sea of Thieves on PlayStation, like, it's that audience is showing itself. Like, if you bring a dope game over here, they'll buy it. They've walked back the 4 AAA releases annually. Don't people listen to these execs? Compo Smurf, where did they walk that back? How new it? I've not seen that. I mean, I was on vacay last week, so I might have missed that. Did that happen? Was that a recent development that they've walked that back? Yeah, so the Hellblade 2 embargo drops, like, an hour before release or whatever. So we're just going to boot up tomorrow, and likely, I don't know if we're going to change our mind in the writer's room. This is a great reason to become a member. This is a great reason to gift members. And our goal this week is 400 members. So easy to hit that. Very easy to hit that. If you divide that between the 5 days, you guys only need 80 members a day. That's super easy. That's light work for this community, okay? Roughly 80 members a day. And if you do that, we're going to do a big celebration on Friday night. I'll do something goofy or play something. I owe you guys that VR dance game. We didn't get to do that because Moog took so long. I thought I was going to beat Moog rather quickly. Second phase of that fight is an absolute bear. I just couldn't freaking get in a rhythm with it. I kept stepping in the dadgum fire. It was really, really hard. My area awareness was improving, but I just couldn't get into it. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't figure it out. JW with 39 months. That's a long time membership in a VIP Plus. It's funny, the Ghost of Tsushima PC has its own SKU for Japan. Initially, I thought it wasn't available in Japan, which would have been crazy seeing it's a Sony game. LOL. Whoa, 39 months. It's a lot of months. Only an idiot would think it's better for players to buy games on PlayStation when we get them for free on xCloud and Game Pass. I mean, I don't know if anybody's saying that it would be better for players to buy. If you're engaging with what I'm saying, I didn't say that. If I don't know who you're engaging with, Jonas. I was saying from a business perspective, Xbox gets to bolster the value of Game Pass, xCloud, and their ecosystem while also selling the game on another platform. Like, that's a big win for them, and also that's a great, they can basically say to their shareholders, they can say to the gaming world, you can choose to play our games basically anywhere in the way that you prefer. Do you like Game Pass? Do you like to build your library on PlayStation? Do you like to build your library on Steam? You can engage whatever way you want. And that is that's what you want for consumers. You want more options, but you also want value. Giving me more options while giving me low value just doesn't matter to me. I don't freaking care. If, like, take for example Jedi Survivor. You could play Jedi excuse me. You could play Jedi Survivor on multiple platforms. I had a lot of options of where to play Jedi Survivor. It didn't matter. The game's quality was poor. It was terrible on PC. Excuse me. Let me take a drink of coffee here. You know, I could buy it everywhere. My ability to buy Jedi Survivor everywhere didn't fix the problems. Only an idiot would buy the console that doesn't have the competing company's games on it. That's another way of looking at this. Is to say, you know, if you're okay with waiting, PC's great. If you're okay with waiting for PlayStation games and you have a pretty big backlog, PC's a great option right now. Especially if you're willing to spend the money and really build a beefy rig, okay? If you just want to play PlayStation games, right? PC still is a great option right now. because you could buy you could buy a PC, a beefy rig, and you could just start with Days Gone, and then Horizon Zero Dawn, and then Ratchet and Clank, and then Returnal, and then God of War 2018, and then Horizon Forbidden West, and now Ghost of Tsushima, and The Last of Us Part 1. That's a lot of games, bro. Like, that, it's going to take you a while to hack your way through those 8 games. All right? So if you haven't touched those games and you have suddenly just, taken an interest in PlayStation, you're like, hey, those games are doing pretty well. They're reviewing well. I want to play those games. You buy yourself a pretty beefy rig and you're going to have a nice backlog of just PlayStation games. Now, if you're like, well, I'd love to play those games, but I'm also not trying to spend an arm and a leg. Like, if you want to build a really beefy rig, let's say you're willing to spend $2,000. Well, what if you're not willing to spend that? You're like, but I could spend $500. Well, then the PS5 is an amazing bargain. Oh, yeah, I left out Spider-Man and Miles Morales. Holy crap, 10 games. That's 10. That's 10 PlayStation games. If you include Spider-Man 1 Remastered and Miles Morales, 10 games that if you haven't touched them and you build yourself a beefy PC, that's an amazing just backlog of... And that's just PlayStation. That's not even including all of the great indie titles that you can get on Steam. And also games like Hellblade 2 and other Xbox releases that are coming this year, like Avowed and Indiana Jones. So PC is a fantastic inroad into gaming right now, especially if you're willing to spend the money and you're going to build a nice rig. If you want to, future-proofing is a myth, but if you want to future-proof it as much as you can, maybe you're dropping $3,000. I don't know. Let's just say 2. You're spending $2,000. You're not going to go budget. You're not going to go pre-built. You're really going to invest in getting something nice, and you want some top-shelf equipment. But somebody next to you might say, hey, I'm interested in all those games too. I want to play Days Gone and Ghost of Tsushima and Horizon. Those 10 games interest me as well. But I'm also interested in Ragnarok and Spider-Man 2, and I don't want to wait for any of the big titles that are coming in the future, like Ghost of Tsushima 2, Spider-Man 3, etc. And I can spend $500, and then all that extra money that you spend on hardware, I can just spend on games, right? Both are great choices. And with Xbox saying and signaling to the gaming world, our titles are also going to PlayStation with Project Latitude, well, PlayStation's also a very good choice. And then the Switch 2 is going to enter the market, and they're going to enter the conversation. And that's going to be a whole nother element of value for gamers, especially if you can get games like Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild to hit 60 FPS. Like, if they're able to leverage DLSS from what we're hearing, if base level performance is around like a PS4 Pro and then DLSS can bump them up into 60 FPS, I'll be so happy. It's going to be I think it's going to be a really great time to have that cascade of options in front of you. And even if you're a one-platform gamer, you still have a really great cascade of options. Does that make sense? Like, you can go the PC route or the PlayStation route and then just throw in the Switch 2, and you've pretty much got everything you need. Which is why, if the future Xbox hardware is more PC hybrid, more handheld hybrid, they're right there on the table as an option as well. It was a lot of slow motion shots, but it looks pretty. My Hellblade 2 tweet was that I just feel better. I'm like, okay, I feel better about this game. I don't feel like they're hiding stuff. I don't feel like it's shrunken down and hard to see. It's not dark. It's not these tiny little areas. I can see everything. I can see far into the background and the distances. I can see the lighting effects. Like, people are giving me grief, and so be it. I'm be real with y'all. The ponies are nervous that game's going to be good. They are. If it reviews well and it gets nominated, the ponies are nervous. They don't like that. They like seeing Xbox fail. They like seeing Xbox titles fail. That's what they're hoping for. That none of them are cheering for Hellblade. They aren't. They can call out the Xbox guys all they want for not playing Hellblade 1, but the ponies want to see that game fail, okay? And that's fine. If that's what they want to do with their platform and their time, that's fine. I don't cheer for games to fail. I don't. I cheered for Starfield. I'm cheering for Hellblade 2. I'm honest when they launch if they're not any good, but I'm not cheering for Hellblade 2 to fail. If that game comes out and it reviews well, and it looks like it's on its way to getting some nominations, you know what everybody's going to talk about? They're just going to talk about game length. If the quality's there, graphics are there, combat's there, story's there, performance is a question mark. Obviously, 30 FPS on console, to me, that's a massive deal breaker as like a Series X owner. It's like, what the frick? I gotta retreat to PC again. That's a huge frustration point, but that's not going to keep outlets from scoring it well. That won't. It didn't keep outlets from scoring Starfield well, and I think the game's going to score better than Starfield. A review embargo after the game launches is very concerning. What's good, Kirk? I won't deny that the embargo adds to my concern. I won't deny that. I think that's concerning, but I also think it's a particular type of game where if the embargo dropped today or 48 hours before, it's usually 24 to 48 hours before. That's a concern. I'm sorry, I said that incorrectly. If it dropped 24 to 40 hours before, then we'd all be getting spoilers, and that's frustrating for a game like that. I want it to do poorly, not because it's Xbox, but because we need another signal that 30 FPS is not acceptable. Well, yeah, my bias is to support the game because I don't think 30 FPS was their choice. I don't. I think 30 FPS is the Series S. It's the shadow of the Series S. Is the embargo as concerning with Game Pass in the picture, though? I think that's a good question. Like, the vast majority of people that are going to engage with Hellblade 2 are going to do it through Game Pass. So why would we be so worried about the review embargo? I think that's a really, really good pushback. You didn't cannibalize tomorrow. Tomorrow's a review roundup, and then we'll play the game. You can't cannibalize tomorrow because we don't know what the reviews are yet. It's only 1 hour before it launches isn't good, but let's not say things that are incorrect. It's before. William Lewis with a $5 super chat tip says, do you think they are having the short embargo to avoid spoilers? A lot of people to do that, especially diehards for the other console. Yeah, I don't know. Detective Seed says, I was concerned, then I went and looked at Hellblade 1, had a similar tight embargo with release. It was about 4 hours early from reviews of release time. Could be a Ninja Theory thing. 2-spot from Rich Rod, Starfield would have been low 70s if not for Xbox sites. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. Starfield had a lot of padding. They had a lot of padding on their Metacritic score. All you have to do is look at the user scores to see that. The Metacritic score is not indicative of that game's quality. It isn't. It's so incredibly padded. I've always said and will continue to say that the user scores on Steam, Xbox, and PlayStation are the single most important scores. User scores on Metacritic don't matter because they can be review bombed. But user scores on Steam and Xbox and PlayStation, those are the most reliable barometers of a game's quality. I skipped the milestone chat. Oh, I'm sorry. Nova Hands with 30 months and a member plus. YouTube says 30 months, but it's been since the fall of 2015. I still haven't figured out how to unsubscribe to this guy. Thank you, Nova Hands, for 30 months. I'm sorry for missing that. Thank you for drawing my attention to that. You can't have spoilers without a physical edition. Embargo has nothing to do with that. Yeah, I mean, I guess you could do an embargo the day before, and then you could have everybody sign an NDA that they're not allowed to talk about certain things. I've done review embargoes where they literally say you can't talk about X, Y, and Z. Like they don't want certain aspects of the game to be spoiled. So they certainly could have done that. I mean, that would have been an option. But like Detective Seeds is saying, they did that with their previous game. So it could be a Ninja Theory thing. Excuse me. Ninja Theory could literally be saying, this is just what we do with our games. We don't like the embargo to drop a significant amount of time before the game launches. It literally could just be their policy. I don't know. There are plenty of reasons to be concerned about that game. But again, the launch trailer made me feel better. I was like, okay, this is what I've wanted to see. I don't want to see quick cuts. I don't want to see blurry environments. I don't want to see the lights turned off. I want to see what's going on. And I felt that trailer gave me that, And people can give me grief all they want on that tweet. That's fine. That's fine. It was my personal take and my personal opinion that I feel better now. I felt pretty bad. I felt pretty concerned. And now I feel better. That doesn't mean that I'm like, oh, the game's gonna absolutely crush and dominate and sell 1 billion copies. I just feel better. It's like, okay, that makes me feel a little bit better. That's a good look at gameplay. I love how nobody wants to ask what you meant by it. Am I the only one? I don't care. I don't care. Expecting thoughtful interaction on Twitter is like expecting an opera singer at karaoke. Like, it just isn't going to happen, okay? It's just not going to it's just not going to happen, bro. I've just lowered the bar of my expectations so incredibly low, It would be like walking into a preschool and being like, I bet we're really going to have a thoughtful discussion about philosophy and morality here. No. Someone's going to say the word fart and everyone's going to laugh. Like, that's you just got to lower the bar, bro. Like, you go to Twitter, you're like, it's going to be a mess. And then when it's a mess, you're like, yep, that's what I thought was going to happen. My concern is, how will Microsoft measure Hellblade 2 success? Is it sales still? I think that's a big question that I saw, in a lot of videos and a lot of conversations. While I was gone, I was watching a couple videos here and there. Like, I'd be getting ready in the morning and I'd throw a video on, just to listen. And it does seem that that's a giant question now. It's like, well, then what how do you measure success? I think I was the only content creator I could find that went back to the email from the FTC where Phil was like, we don't even know. He's like, I don't have an Excel sheet on this. I still think that they do not have an Excel sheet on this, but I think what happened was, I think Microsoft said, here's your measurement. Which, to me, is a pretty strong indicator that there will be more studio closures. I think this time next year, we're going to have, we'll have a graveyard of studios that Microsoft just shuttered. I do. I don't think that's an avoidable reality. I think that's coming. Because I think Microsoft has a measurement of success. And their measurement of success is in this was, I think, observed by a lot of people that, like, Xbox spokespersons don't even know what the frick's going on. You close Tango, and then within 24 hours, you're like, yeah, we need smaller games that can win awards. The frick did you just say? What? Like, it's like they don't even know. It's like the Xbox guys don't know what's going on. Again, it's like Microsoft walked in the room and said, this is the measurement, and get rid of people that aren't hitting this. Listen, if you think that these studios are safe, the reason that the studios were closed was because they weren't currently working on anything. There was no value assessment. There was no measurement of like, well, what did they bring to the table, and what could a sequel of their property look like for us? Let's do some projections. Let's do some market analysis. No, it was, they're not presently working on anything, so shut them down. They're in the pitching process. Anybody currently working on a project, well, we want that to come to market because we want to try to make money off of it. So if you think these studios are safe, you're kidding yourself. I can't imagine shipping a game right now as a Microsoft-owned studio. It's like, you're next. You know, it's like in that Monty Python thing. It's like, oh, I'm getting better. Like, oh, we're going to work on something. We'll make another game. It's like, we don't care. If Hi-Fi Rush is not small enough for Xbox, Hellblade 2 has no chance at all. Didn't they say Hi-Fi Rush 2 was in the works? No. They were pitching Hi-Fi Rush 2. That's what they were doing. So when you're pitching, essentially what you're doing is you're getting the green light from your publisher to move on to a new project. And when you get that green light, you get funding. It's basically like, okay, how much money are you going to need? You know, what's the marketing spend? You know, what's the time to market projection? What, you know, when do you think this game could launch? And so they were pitching the idea of a Hi-Fi 2, and this is the absolute absurdity of the situation. Okay, the freaking game hasn't even launched on the Nintendo Switch yet. These morons are going to feel real stupid when that game goes to Switch and does really well. They're going to feel real dumb. Be like, wait a minute. Those guys were pitching a sequel to this game. It just went to one of the highest saturated piece of video game hardware in history. And it's going to land over there, and I think it's going to do very well. And then what are they going to say? Oh, we closed that studio. The studio that could have made the sequel. And then they could have made the sequel land on all those platforms. It's got to be, and this is where I agreed with Jez, it's got to be one of the most short-sighted things I've ever seen a company do. It's like, what are you doing? Keeping them open couldn't have... How much did it cost to keep Tango open for another couple of years? Like, how much? In the grand scheme of what Microsoft can spend, and you're like, yeah, we got to shut down Tango? It's stupid. Like, I understand Arcane Austin, they were bleeding talent. They shipped a game they didn't even want to ship. And in the other smaller studios, it's like, you know, you'd have to analyze what they were bringing to the table, what they recently launched. You know, Tango, what in the world are you doing? They're going to feel smart because they don't have to pay to run the studio anymore, and they're just going to get Switch sales at no cost. Right. But Eugene, why would you not look at that and say it sold really, really well on Switch, so now let's make another one to ship on the Switch? I just realized somebody's logo reminded me of Brap. Brap stopped by earlier. Did I not say hi? Brap, are you here still? Are you still lurking? Did I say hi back? I like to say hi back to people like that have had me on their show and are like a mutual. I feel like I did not say anything to him, and I should have. I know he stopped by. Somebody let Brap know. I saw him. And I love him. I'm just kidding. Zubair says no, they won't. They'll just give it to another studio to make. These studios are all interchangeable. And Eugene saying the same thing. They assume someone else can do it. Oh, so you think we get a Hi-Fi Rush 2? And they have somebody else make it? I mean, yeah, maybe. They don't understand the art side of it. Right, they're taking they have a very sort of, utilitarian approach to software because I think it works for Microsoft Office. I think it works for, Windows. You're not making something creative. You're making something, you're making something that is just, it's a tool. So that you don't need like artistic vision to get Microsoft Office to run well. It's a stinking tool. It's utilitarian. I mean, you can make it look nice, but there's no like, you're not telling a story. You're not storyboarding and casting this vision of like what's going to happen in this game. What's the immersion point for the gamer? You're not doing any of it. You're making and selling a tool. They think these people are box builders. Anybody can build a box, right? Yeah, the Coalition will make hi-fi. Yeah, I mean, this goes back to what I was saying earlier, is they're going to shift away from Cadence, but they're still going to be operating beneath Cadence. Like, we have to get stuff out. Hey, hi-fi did really well on Nintendo. Let's get a studio to build the next hi-fi. Right? Like, I said something about that with Fallout 5. I said they're going to see the success of Fallout TV show, and they're going to say, we need a Fallout game to come to market sooner than later. Kirk says Xbox doesn't make games anymore, they make money. Eliminating Hi-Fi Rush devs and then actively developing its sequel with another team is a terrible idea. Oh, I agree with you. But, think about it. When you've been operating the way Microsoft has, think about it from this perspective, okay? I rail against this all of the time. The 18-month contractual policy, which states if you're going to become a contract worker at Microsoft, 18 months later, you got to go. And then you can't come back for 6 months. You can't come back for 6 months because they don't want to pay you benefits, okay? Now, if that had a depreciating effect to value and quality, if it would have hurt Microsoft's product over the years, they would have changed the policy, right? If it started to hurt money, profit, if it started to hurt the recurring subscriptions and people using their software, like, right, if it would have had a deteriorating effect on what they ship, then they would have stopped doing it. So they're coming to gaming with that mentality of like, well, we've been doing this all these years. Why wouldn't we just continue to do that? You're just making games. How different could it really be? Make the software, ship the software. Creature says Xbox doesn't make games, they buy games. This is also somewhat true, but they don't just, here's the thing, they buy games and then they continue to have that studio make games. But you can see like what happened with Halo. It's like, well, wait, you didn't equip the studio to succeed. They treated 343 the way that they treat their software division. It's like, you don't need people to stay. 18 months later, you can have people walking out the door and just replace them. Right? Well, you can do that when, Dave is working on, tool sets and plugins and driver updates for Microsoft Office, and then he's got to leave, and then the next guy just comes in and picks up where Dave left off. Why? Because you're just building a tool. It just needs to be fixed, refined, patched, whatever. You don't have somebody going from, well, yeah, I was working underneath this project lead, and we were the world building team, and we had a vision for, seamless interaction between the world. We got dynamic weather systems that'll actually affect the enemies. You have all this vision transfer, and there's this big sort of nebulous vision transfer that has happened from the higher ups down to the project leads down to the teams themselves. And so when that vision transfer comes down and it takes root, well, now your team is going to execute. Like, we're building the world, okay, or we're the weapons team, or we're the enemy's team, and what we're building is subservient to the vision of this game. And if every 18 months some guy's walking out the door that got acclimated to all of that, you lose all of that. Now you got to get a new guy to come in, and he has to then get the vision transfer. Okay, this is what we're building. What I'm building has to serve the vision. It's just, there's no cohesion. There's no team unity. You're just constantly rotating people out. That's why Halo Infinite turned out the way that it did. You're not building a video game at that point. You're just building a product. Like, you're not building a game. And then the product hits, and it's obvious that there's a complete lack of vision and readiness. It's like the game wasn't even ready. People are like, whoa, the story got really good reviews. It's like, yeah, but the story was lacking basic features. And the multiplayer launched in a beta. That's like your biggest franchise. Like, what are you doing? It's Microsoft. That's why when people do revisionist history on Halo Infinite, I'm like, you are doing yourself and the property, and you're doing 343 an injustice by acting like Halo Infinite was always good. They just failed to deliver content for the live service. Oh my gosh. You're literally letting, every single time people do that, you're just letting Microsoft off the hook. They treated their golden goose, they treated their boy. Look what they did to your boy. They treated him like trash. And you hand wave it and you say, well, Halo Infinite's always been good. So Microsoft just gets to sit in the corner and completely demolish a studio and a piece of property, and you hand wave it because you got to be loyal to the brand. It's a joke. Other than Flight Sim, what is that? Name an Xbox created IP, says Creature. I can name 10 original Sony IPs. Can you name one Xbox original? They absolutely destroyed the Halo IP reputation in the process. The game got clowned. Yeah, and you know, we get 3 years away from the release date, and then everyone talks about how, oh, it was good, and it's like, you're only able to do that because we're so far away from the release date. You get to play like chronological trickery and act like, well, because things got better or things improved, that like, oh, that's how the game launched. And it was like, are you kidding me? Like, are you kidding me? That would be like acting like Diablo 4 launched and it was fine. Like, if the latest update has improved things and made things better. That's like acting like Diablo 3 launched and everything was fine. That's just chronological sleight of hand. You're acting like, well, what we've got now retroactively improves the launch date. It's like, no, that's not how it works. It's great that people are committed, but like No Man's Sky basically is a different game. They basically built No Man's Sky 2 inside of No Man's Sky. You don't get to retroactively act like No Man's Sky's launch was great because of where the game is now. That's just misleading. Would you rather have the Halo Master Chief Collection come to PS5 than Halo Infinite? Oh, for sure. Master Chief Collection would do significantly better than Halo Infinite. Master Chief Collection is, it's praised, it's liked, it's engaged with, it's got nostalgia. Like, Halo Infinite is sullied at this point. Why would you even bring it over? They're basically setting it up for EOL, so it's end of life. So you're gonna bring over the campaign with no split screen, and I mean, come on. The campaign was good, but I don't think it was good enough to bring the game over. Flight Sim and Forza. Right, so Microsoft made Flight Sim and Forza, which basically, if you think about those games, they're really, really good displays of tech. They're very, very good technical displays of what you can do with an engine. Like, here's a look at this car. Look at Flight Sim, right? They're very technical. There's not a Like, there's not a lot of creative vision needed for flight sim. It's a simulator. It's a real world environment. You're just, okay, the planes have to look like the planes, and the world and the maps have to look like the world and the maps, right? Forza is very similar in that regard, and they're very, very good. That doesn't mean that they're bad, but it shows that, like, okay, those aren't extremely creative, because, you know, people will rail on, you know, PlayStation games for being movie games, but then the PC audience is learning maybe that's not a fair summary. If you look at the reception of God of War and Horizon and Ghost of Tsushima, I think people are starting to realize that that's just a total... It's just basically a version of propaganda. Like, you're basically just propagandizing people and convincing them that, like, these games are trash. Like, look at the people who are jumping over to PlayStation and experiencing those games for the first time. They're like, oh my gosh. You know, I always cite the guy that was like, I feel like I was lied to. Well, it's because you were. It's because you were. Like, PlayStation games are just boring, right? Like, that's what people say. They're boring. They're walking simulators. They're movie games. Whatever pejoratives they want to hurl at them. But then look at the reception from the users. What are we even talking about? It's not even comparable. You know, if you look at creative reception, that's always going to be a better indication of what gamers think about a game, as opposed to people who create... Basically, they create these dirty word banners to attach to the game, so you never give the game a second chance. It's not like when you see somebody talk about a game, and I'll give you an example. You know, with all the debates about Assassin's Creed right now, there are people that will give you specific examples of, like, why they stopped playing Assassin's Creed, okay? And while I don't agree with some of those criticisms, at least they're pointed and they're specific. They'll point to world bloat, the map, all of the icons. They'll talk about the lack of stealth focus. It doesn't feel like an Assassin's Creed game anymore, right? There's a specificity to the criticism. But then when you get to games like God of War and Horizon and Ghost of Tsushima, there's no specificity. We get generic summary. Oh, they're just movie games. Like, I remember the one tweet where they were like, they showed how many of the games featured, like, a bow and arrow. And I'm like, yes, the utilization of the bow and arrow in The Last of Us 2 is exactly the same as Tsushima and Horizon. The only people who would insinuate that are either, like, willfully being deceptive, or they're just stupid and they've never played the games. Like, they're not even remotely executed in the same way at all. But that's what they do. There's no specificity there. They don't go down into the muck and the mire of the game and talk about what they might not think is very good or what they think is worthy of criticism. It's just a super generic nonsense. So you can always sniff out what's a genuine criticism and what's somebody who's just blowing smoke, because it's like, you can make criticisms of those games. There are things that they don't do or maybe didn't design particularly well. But when you just get this generic nonsense of, like, well, it's just a movie game and you're not really playing, and then they play Ghost of Tsushima and they're like, oh my gosh, what have I been doing? Like, why didn't I play this game? It's a 4-year-old game and it's blowing people away. Why? Because it's a good game. That doesn't mean that you have to like it. That doesn't mean that you're going to have fun playing it. But to dismiss it as, oh, it's boring or it's just a movie game, that's not somebody who's giving you anything. There's no meat on the bones there. You know what I mean? It's like fast food marketing. It's just so fake. It's like, you know, it's not going to be like what you see. Well, those generic summaries, that's what they're like. It's just they're so fake. They're so see-through. It's like, you're not actually talking about the game. Ghost of Tsushima is killing it on PC. Right, and I think it's demolishing the notion that these games are movie games, these games are boring, these games are all the same. I think that notion's being absolutely demolished, which we'll see this week from PlayStation, from Sony, when they do their strategy calls. I think there's going to be a heavy push. I think they want to bring more to PC. I think they're going to do their own launcher. And I think you're going to see games get closer and closer to day and date. And then we'll see day and date launches, probably by the time we get to the PS6 with like Spider-Man 3. And they'll do day and date in their own launcher. And they'll come to Steam later. That's been my prediction on that. And I think you're going to get some... excuse me. I think you're going to get some indication of that this week. So... PC gamers getting blown away by a PS4 game is quite funny. Yeah. I agree with you. I think I love it. It's like one of my favorite games. So when it when it started out, like the first couple of hours, I pulled up my phone, I checked it, and the reviews weren't very good because everybody was kind of bombing it over the regional stuff. And I was mad at PlayStation. I was like, you guys screwed another game, right? Does Reforge usually read his super chats or only once in a while? Oh my gosh, did I miss your super chat? I'm sorry, William. I do. I'm getting set up for the next show, so I was looking at my other monitor. I apologize. William with the $5 super chat says, people praise the campaign, but I hated it. It completely ruined Cortana and Chief's storyline and the promise he made not to replace her in 4, 5, and I need a retcon. I'm sorry for not reading that. Yeah, I mean, I don't have a strong... I don't have like a super strong opinion about the story in Halo because I was never a huge Halo guy. I played the co-op campaigns with my buddies, my friends, siblings, and the like. But it was always a bit of a, like, I was sort of a, I don't want to say I was a fair weather fan, but I wouldn't call myself a fan. Does that make sense? Like, it was just not something that I was particularly, what's the phrase I want to use? To me, it was like, this is fun, but I'm not going to dive down deep into the lore and into the story and any of that. Does that make sense? Like, some games I just play because I think, oh, the gameplay is enjoyable, but I'm not like, oh my gosh, I got to figure out what the backstory is of Master Chief and everything else. Does that make sense? What's up, Kirk?
What's going on?
What up? Okay, I gotta push you up here. Then I gotta shrink you down.
I'm sending you a COD MAU chart in case you want to use it.
Okay.
And the source is like meh, but also it's the best visual that I can find. Like the other ones are like statistic nerd stuff. So. How you doing, man? Did you enjoy your vacation?
I did. We had a good time.
Yeah, talk to that Popo down there in Louisville about arresting golfers.
I didn't get the full story on it. It was like a misunderstanding, right? And like, I mean, he obviously should have listened, but it sounds like it was a misunderstanding because he ended up golfing, didn't he?
Yeah, so there's two sides to it. Basically, his side that I heard recounted from his attorney was basically there was a big accident, and you know how that is when there's just something in the middle of the road and people can't get where they need to go.
Yeah. And
he talked to the officer, and he's like, hey, I'm Scotty Scheffler. I'm a PGA Tour golfer. Like, I'm trying to get into the golf club to warm up and stuff. It's like 6 in the morning or something. And he's like, oh, yeah, that's fine. Just go around this way, and then you can turn up there or whatever. And so he goes to do that, and the other officer, not knowing that he had talked to the first officer, is like, hey, you can't do that. And Scotty, being who he is, I'm sure was like, screw this guy. I'm not listening to him. The other guy told me that I can do this. So the officer like latched onto his car like with his hand or whatever, and he like dragged the officer like 10 feet or whatever.
Oof. And
then finally they like pulled him out of the vehicle or something. It sounded like it was crazy, but there's also like the other side is basically that he wasn't doing what he was supposed to be doing. He just wanted to get into the golf club, which I don't blame the guy. Like, he's a PGA Tour golfer. He's trying to get in, like, warm up, But it was just a funny story. Like, it's like there's no reason for him to be arrested. Like, clearly the cop was just pissed off.
He ended up when I don't follow golf, but some of my friends do, and they were like watching on their phones and stuff. Did he end up in like, he was in the top running, wasn't he, in like top 5?
Probably. I wasn't really paying attention to it because I saw that Xander Schauffele was running away with it. And I was much more interested in the NBA playoffs because we had 2 Game 7s on Sunday yesterday. But no, he wasn't really in contention to win the thing, but like he's the world #1. Like, I think that's what makes this story so wild, is like he's the best golfer in the world. Like, if he was just like a guy that people know of, I don't think it would be as crazy. But like the fact that like he's the best golfer in the world and some cop was like, no you don't, just arrested him. Like, I don't know, it's just a wild story. Like, I don't know that anybody's like super passionate one way or the other about like, oh, the cops are wrong, or like Scotty's an asshole or what. It's just a ridiculous story, I think.
Yeah, I would say even if one has told you it's okay, you know, calm and respect for the next guy. Like, hey, this guy told me I could go. Can you call him? Instead of just going and being like, screw you, man.
You gotta assume he was like kind of being a like, I'm a big shot.
Oh yeah, his ego got pricked. He was like, do you know who I am? Like,
yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Yeah, he'll probably end up having to pay, I would think, a pretty hefty fine, you know, because
it's funny though, because on the police report, the officer put that like his pants were ruined. Like, that was one of his main annoyances, is that his pants got ruined.
Well, I mean, he's lucky he didn't get
repair.
hurt. Whenever somebody gets drugged like that, they can get really, really hurt, which is why he shouldn't have. I mean, put somebody's life in danger because of your ego. Like, that's kind of stupid.
Yeah.
That's reckless, man. But thankfully it was just the pants, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, that could have been a lot worse. You're right. I think everybody's just kind of like, you know, come on, asshole Louisville cop that like wanted to prove a point, basically. Like, is it really that big of a deal? But
I mean, if he just went, I would say not a big deal. But the fact that he drug him, that makes it a big deal. Yeah. It's like, bro, as soon as that happens, you hit the brakes and say, all right, I'm gonna hurt somebody.
Well, I think that's what occurred. Like, if it was me, I wouldn't. I mean, I can't imagine being in that scenario ever, because I would just be so timid when around law enforcement, like just not wanting to put a foot wrong.
Yeah, I'm always like, yes sir, yes sir, yes sir, yes sir, whatever you need me to do.
But yeah, like I have to assume he didn't really realize what was going on until he realized what was going on, and then was like, oh, okay, that's where this is happening. Like, gotcha, I need to stop because this guy's like crazy, and his being pulled by my vehicle, like, because he's a madman.
Okay. YouTube's being YouTube here.
So this is another one where we have not talked about this. So we don't... Garrett Green says in the chat, Kirk, you're not representing what happened. That may be totally true on this one. A lot of times I come in here and I know what I'm talking about, like with the Drake and Kendrick thing. This is very much like secondhand. Like, I have just kind of heard this through the grapevine. What went on. I saw an interview with his attorney. Like, that's about, like, I saw some stuff on ESPN. Like, that's all. So you may be totally right. I may not have a clue what I'm talking about. Just want to put that out there, full disclosure. Because when I don't know what I'm talking about, and I'm just yapping, I don't want to claim that I, like, you know, am like, oh, I know I'm right. Like, no, I have no idea what happened.
Yeah, somebody's saying in chat that he didn't drag him, that he like jumped on the car. And I'm like, well, I guess you can't really anticipate that. Like no, I'm gonna go.
I assume he dragged him because I heard that, and also there's a report that says his pants got ruined.
Well, he probably fell off the stinking car.
Maybe, yeah. I don't know. Whatever. I just thought that was funny that I did not realize the PGA Championship was in Louisville, and then when I realized that, I was like, oh, I'm definitely gonna have to like give Lono a hard time about that because you'll be
Yeah,
like, your cops over there.
Yeah, man.
They're lashing on a PGA Tour golfer car.
That's right. We're big time. We got the Derby, and now we got PGA, dude. We're big time here in Louisville.
Coming to Charlotte next year, so I'm excited about that.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to take a quick break, guys. We're going to shift gears. We're going to do a new stream, and it's going to be about Xbox Game Pass is changing. So do me a favor, stick around, smash the like button. You can talk to Kirk for a minute here about, let's maybe shift to gaming instead of whatever the heck you guys think about the golfer thing. It probably doesn't matter. Nobody got hurt. He'll pay a fine. Let's just move on.
No, the only reason I brought that up is because it's in the town that.
Right, it's where I live. I've lived here for 22 years, so I love the city. And
I'm sure there were some murmurings like around, like when something like that happens, like in your own backyard, like people are like, "What? Like we made the news for like not good stuff."
Yeah, I'm in Atlanta, and they like pulled it up on the TV. We were in a mellow mushroom, and I was like, "What the heck's going on in Louisville? Like, what in the world?"
Yeah.
We have friends that get to go to the PGA and to the stuff that happens here in Louisville, so that they were obviously talking about it too.
Kirk is a fountain of misinformation. Hey, you know what? That's how I got this gig. So just sticking with the game plan.
All right, I'll be right back.
I am a Carolina fan, Sneaky Wolf, but God, is that hard these days? Oh my word! I liked our first round draft pick. Xavier Leggett, and the fact that we have Deontay Johnson now is pretty nice, but we're in for a long road of losing, I think. Patrick, that was just like an issue with my Streamlabs. Or no, it was an issue with my Twitch on my phone. Dave, I am going to get NCAA 25, and I might review it. I think I'm going to review Formula 1 F1 2024 also, but it always depends on like the embargo. Like sometimes with sports games, IGN takes a little longer to get their review up, and that helps me because I get like 3 to 6 days of clean runway for my video to do well. So if I can, I try to do a lot of sports games because it just works out that way. Zubair, why are you going to be nicer to me? And Raven, I wanted to go outside and get some sun, but it was rainy, like it was cloudy all weekend, so I didn't get to do that, unfortunately. Yeah, he's Bryce Young is kind of short. It's kind of short and kind of small. I don't know. I don't know if that's gonna work out. I was in favor of Bryce Young over CJ Stroud, and that doesn't seem to have been the right choice. Nice, it's comfy, isn't it, Nick? Oh, my football team? Yeah, you should definitely be a lot nicer to me, Zubair. It could be the light source. I mean, I was outside, but it was extremely cloudy. So if I have any more tan, it would be very slight. Isn't there pre-order for the NCAA purely MUT packs? Oh, yeah, that's right. NCAA is going to have Ultimate Team. Oh, that's gross. Guys, if you want a good football game that has Ultimate Team, but it's not pay to win, go pick up Wildcard Football for like $20. I have a review on my channel. What's New Video Games? Most of you already know my channel because Creature makes fun of the name all the time. But I have a review on my channel. If you just type in Wildcard Football review later today or tomorrow or whenever, that game is really good, and it has Ultimate Team and like season mode in it, and you can't pay for players, which I really, really like. It plays kind of like NFL Street meets like Mario sports games. It's really fun. But yeah, I am excited for NCAA 25. I just hope they don't over monetize it and make it just a Madden clone that just feels like a pay-to-win circus. I did play Legend Bowl, Dave. I have a review for that as well. That was a bad review video. That was when I was bad at making review videos. But yeah, Legend Bowl is awesome. It's a great little game. It's like the same style as like Tecmo Bowl.
All right, I'm gonna hit up the Discord. I'm gonna put a link in chat. That's where we are headed. I'm gonna go ahead and send a tweet as well. Boom, boom, boom.
I'll retweet that to my 400 followers. Follow me on Twitter at WarmerGray. For more horrible takes. Reforge.
What the frick? Okay.
By the way, why do you have Reforge Gaming and Reforge Media?
There was a time where we were trying to set up basically like a network where there would be like the hub and then there would be like sub channels. So Reforge Gaming got its own like Twitter account. And I started tweeting from there about the ABK stuff. And it only had like 500 followers. And it kind of exploded, got like a couple thousand. So we started using both, you know, in a more intentional way. But that's
so the
why.
Gaming one was the new one for ABK?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember ABK was like that was a time for Twitter for sure.
Call of Duty and incoming changes. There we go. I mentioned you from... I'm an idiot. Hang on.
What?
I just went to the... They just made massive changes to Twitter, and like I can't switch accounts. I have to do it twice. It's like I just quote tweeted from the same stupid account. It's like I had to re-log into all of my accounts this morning, and then when I try to switch, like it won't switch. Like the whole website's scuffed right now. All right. Okay. There you go, guys. Click the link in chat. That is where we are headed. And I'm going to go live over there and redirect you as well. Let me make sure redirect setup it is. Thanks so much for checking out this weekly segment where I sit down with Kirk from What's New Video Games, and we're talking about Xbox Game Pass and the changes that are coming. There's big good news for subscribers of Game Pass, but there is the ominous threat of change, price increases, new tiers, and the like. So we're going to be breaking it all down. I do this every week as my second segment on Monday, so be sure to check out What's New Video Games linked below. Or you can check out Kirk the Gamer on other platforms like the Purple platform if you want to see live streams of him being just probably pretty terrible at games. But if you like his contribution to the channel, make sure and hit subscribe, leave comments below. A lot of you guys don't like what he has to say, and that's okay. Just be respectful in your comments if you're in the live chat or leaving comments below there. So welcome here, Kirk.
Yeah, man. Glad you got to get, some rest and relaxation.
Yeah, now we're back into the